Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's Arius. I'm back again with another reading of A History of the Yoruba People by S. Adebanji Akintoye, a great Yoruba scholar who is now, I think the last I heard, living in the United States. I could be wrong. I think he lives in Pennsylvania. Um, so yeah, I want to read another excerpt just to keep the consistency up. Um, Shout out to my boy Akindele Bankole, who reached out to me on YouTube. He had some really positive things to say, and I think that we can start building a community of people who are interested in African history, Yoruba history, Nigerian history, and we can build that community online. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to, instead of recording my reading of it, I'm just going to read it live. And when things strike me, like when ideas strike me, I'm gonna stop reading and talk about those ideas that strike me. And so, feel free to comment, ask me questions, you know, debate me. You know, I don't claim to be an authority on any of this stuff. I'm learning just like you. Um, but I am very interested. And so I'm hoping to link up with like-minded people who are interested as well. So with that said, I'm going to get back to it. A History of the Yoruba People by Dr. S. Arabanji Akintoye. It's available through Amalian Publishing. You can buy it on Amazon. That's where I got it. Or you can also get it at the library. I got this one, my first copy that I first was exposed to. I got it at the public library. So yeah, information is available. So I'm going to read a little bit. So I'm going to read here, starting with the development of early Yoruba society. In this chapter, it's like talking about the roots, how the roots of the Yoruba society, how it started to formulate itself from basic, hunter gatherer society to a more sedentary, structured society. So the last reading talked about the centrality of iron, how important iron smelting was, and how in Yoruba land, iron smelting actually preceded the Copper Bronze Age era, which most of the world went through first. They usually went through a bronze period and then an iron period. But according to history, the Yoruba skipped over the iron period, the Bronze Age, and went straight to the Iron Age, which is very interesting. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna read. So you guys ready? Let's go. So I'm on page 20. The coming of iron, and consequently the general improvement in tools and skills and in people's management of their natural environment, also resulted over time in improvements in the dwellings in which they lived. Gradually, we may suppose, people learnt to build stronger and better houses, ultimately with mud walls and thatched roofs made of selected durable wood, ropes, and fronds. At some high point in this improvement in the building of houses, Yoruba people turned their skills to erecting buildings which kept each extended family group or lineage together under the same roof, a logical outcome of their way of life and their group psychology which had evolved over many centuries. The earliest Agbo-Ile lineage compound thus came into being, each consisting of many dwelling units in one single building. Each building developed as a number of courtyards around which the dwelling units were arranged. Traditions and group behavior that survived into the early 20th century would seem to indicate that the practice was to add a new courtyard when more living units were needed. It is not now known in that type of approach a group that and that de- I'm sorry. It is not known how in that type of approach a group decided that an Agbo Ile had reached optimum size and that another one was needed to be started. But it did happen that over many centuries, each Agbo Ile came to contain about 3 courtyards as standard, while each settlement came to consist of a number of Agbo Iles, or even some quarters, each quarter being a segment comprising a few contiguous Agbo Iles, or lineage compounds, meaning that family members of the same lineage lived amongst each other in the same compound. And as that compound got bigger and bigger, they would then decide when they needed to build a new one. So families were together. Architectural and aesthetic improvements to the Agbo Ile made it gradually stronger and safer, more comfortable and more beautiful. The preparation of the earthen plaster for walls and the setting up of walls became more skillful, thus increasing the intricacy, safety, and durability of wall structures. The weaving of the roof thatch became an art in itself, making it possible for roofs to last many generations with only minor repairs every few years. Minor roof repairs were done often, but roof replacements were done at intervals of generations, and each subsequent and each such replacement job was usually taken as an opportunity to improve and restructure, if necessary, the whole Agbo Ile. Decorations became a standard part of the construction of Agbo Ile and grew more and more detailed. It became standard practice to carve using iron tools and paint or stain the wooden pillars that supported eaves, typically in stylized anthropomorphic or animal idioms, and to carve wooden doors in bas relief, especially large main doors to the Agbo Ile. Decorations also came to include murals, such as called iwope, on wall surfaces, some of them frescoed or engraved. All these features improved gradually in quality and beauty from generation to generation. Ultimately, with the broad and sweeping verandas, carved and painted posts holding up the eaves, and the murals on the walls, many and elaborate geometric compositions. The courtyards of some Agbo Ile could look quite imposing, and all these decorations were extended to shrines also, so that shrines tended to be striking public buildings. In fact, the shrine became each settlement's prized possession over which skill and art were lavished. The pride over the beauty of shrines has continued to survive in the oriki, or praise poetry of many lineages. The oriki of many a proud lineage in many parts of Yoruba land include lines such as these. So I'm not going to read the Yerba because I'm going to sound terrible. I'm just going to read the English translations. We build our shrines and finish them with murals. Even if a shrine building itself be not impressive, its murals would still captivate the passerby. So ultimately, that paragraph is just talking about how much art was incorporated into the family compound. There would be carvings into the post, the beam post that would hold up the walls. There would be murals and paintings everywhere. And if you go to Yoruba land today, my family is from Obomasho in southwest Nigeria. If you go there today, if you go to for example, the Shone's Palace, you're gonna see like wooden doors that have carvings in them. You're gonna see the posts that hold up the roofs. They're gonna have carvings in them and paintings. So art is very central to Yoruba culture and African culture in general. And that's why we tend to be so creative to this day. Rivalries and competition between settlements and between compounds and settlements resulted in other forms of artistic expression also. One such was the oriki, a form of poetry in which each group glorified itself and preserved in cryptic language the high points of its history. Over time, as the oriki tradition grew, every unit of society, the settlement, the lineage, the leadership titles, and even the individual came to have oriki, and every oriki tended to be amplified and grow richer in the course of history. Group pride also produced facial markings given to the children at birth to proclaim their ancestry, as well as exclusive group festivals, seasonal and annual, filled with special group songs and exhibitions of masks and loud, elaborate funerals for departed parents. All of these were features in the development of the identity and distinctiveness of the groups, settlements, and lineages. That development had perhaps its most important production in the evolution of the Yoruba kinship system. Every group conceived of itself as a family, and the culture demanded that marriage had to be exogamous. That is, people must ideally marry from families outside of their own. As a result, each lineage contained many women who had been married from other lineages and many members who were offspring of such women. Facts loaded with potential to dilute lineage cohesiveness, identity, and loyalty. The Yoruba responded to this by evolving a rigidly patrilineal kinship system. By this system, every child belonged to his father's lineage. and had to be raised in the lineage compound and could only inherit title from it. As a corollary to this, when women married into another lineage, she became a member of her husband's group. She could never revert to membership of her father's group, and if she died, her body had to be buried in the land of her husband's group. Hence, the Yoruba saying that after parents give their daughters in marriage, the appropriate thing to do is to remove her favorite childhood seat from their home and burn it. That was most probably the root of the norm whereby Yoruba girls were given in marriage only when they were adjudged to be mature, usually 20 years or older, and capable of being independent of their parents as well as of being able to fit quickly and maturely into their roles in their new homes. Yoruba folklore has many tales of very serious penalties for mothers who dare to cling to their newly married daughters. That's really interesting to me. One of the things that really stuck out for me is a couple things: the oriki, the poetry, the praise poetry of their family and lineage, and how it was there was a competitiveness. Kind of makes me think of like the rap game in a sense. That competitive linguistic flair that we seem to have. Seems like it goes back a long way. So that was something that stuck out to me as well. Also, just how the structure of the family began to evolve over time, with since so many women would be coming into a family from different parts of Yoruba land and different parts of Africa in general, they basically had to leave their family identity and become incorporated into the patrilineal line, meaning the line of the father, usually the oldest male in the family. So that's really interesting. One thing to note also, when we talk about the Yoruba, we talk about them as if they're like one cohesive group, but in actuality, Yoruba is really a blanket term. It's there's no one Yoruba identity. There are many Yoruba identities, languages, customs, all those things. So I think I'll read one more paragraph, and that'll be it. The general improvements in tools and skills also accelerated the growth of division of labor and the rise of distinct professions. We do not know whether the making of stone tools ever developed into a special profession, but in any case, the making of stone tools ultimately ceased as a result of the coming of iron. Pottery remained the oldest craft profession. For many centuries, before the knowledge of iron, women potters had made pots at locations where suitable clay could be found in the forest near their homes. Almost certainly, the potter's possession of iron tools for her work, for cutting the covering vegetation and digging up the clay, increased her production capacity. It may also have improved the quality of her pots. The association or guild of potters was probably the oldest professional guild or association in Yoruba history. Another interesting fact or tidbit. Um, the Potters Guild being the oldest professional guild, or a guild is nothing more than a group of people who come together to share knowledge and advocate for collective interest. So the oldest guild in Yoruba society was the Potters Guild, and in Yoruba society, African society in general, pots were made by women. So women theoretically were the first organizers um, in Yoruba society. So that's really interesting. I mean, I only read about 2 pages, and there's so much to dissect. Um, so yeah, just that's all I'm gonna do for today. But feel free to pose any questions, any things you want to bring up for discussion, and we can really talk about some of the things that we're discovering as we're reading this book, A History of the Yoruba People by Dr. S. Adabanji Akintoye. Um, yeah, so hope everybody's having a great weekend. It's Sunday where I'm at. I'm in Los Angeles. It's a rainy day, and it's a relaxing day. So much love to everybody out there. Shout out to my boy Akindele Bankole. Shout out for reaching out. Um, and if you want to hear more, just subscribe and share, and just keep learning. Peace.